Okay, Commissioner.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome everyone. We're a little bit late, but the meeting of the Iron County Commission of the 25th day of March 2019 is hereby convened. Bruce, could we ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And Preston, would you give us a prayer today?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we ask that that you'll be here with us today with all the different matters in the county. We ask that we can be safe and be watched over. We're very grateful for this country that we get to live in, for the freedom of choice and the decisions that we get to make. We're very grateful again for just having a beautiful place like this. We're very grateful for the moisture we've been receiving, and we ask that you will watch over us and help us to bless this nation. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you both very much. We'll start, let's see, we have minutes of the March 11th, 2019 meeting. I'd entertain a motion on those.
I move to approve the minutes of March 11th, 2019.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the Iron County Commission meeting of March 11th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Going to reports. Chad, welcome. We'll start with you.
Thank you. Good morning.
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 John, did you get the
Yeah, let me get that.
thing to come up there for us? Some year-end reports. It's the first time I got the report this year. If you want to begin to come up, you don't know
Thank you, sir.
Hey, thanks. Anybody else interested in a copy of notes for it? Good. On. Okay, so here's our year-end reports. As you remember, I'm huge on statistics, charts and stuff to see where we're going, tracking numbers. Helps a lot in future guessing to know what we're going to do with especially personnel and stuff that might be needed in the future. So if we begin, I don't think that pointer's going to work on that anyway. Darn it.
Oh, I got to get you plugged in.
I keep trying.
We should have figured out a way to get 3 more last year so we could have an all-time high.
Yeah, exactly. Glad you picked that up. I was going to point that out, Commissioner. Thank you. So anyway, yep, if you'll notice, most people think that the last years would have been our highest ones. However, if you look back, it's actually back in the 90s right there. Back in 95 was our all-time high for actual number of building permits. There's from 1983 through last year. What's the next one, John? I think it should be our valuation, if you can get the next one there. That's our valuation. That would mean the cost of the permit value that we figure. Do not confuse this with market value that the assessor figures. Ours is much, much lower. In fact, in my opinion, this needs to be done. I've been talking to commissioners about this for a couple of years now, trying to get a feel for what you'd like to do, as you know. But this is figured on probably about less than half of what an actual building would cost you to build. Just for an instance, we would only evaluate permits on $60 a square foot. Don't you wish you could build your building? You're building right now, not even a residence for $60, Bruce. Next. Oh, those high spikes in there would be, if you'll notice the asterisks on the bottom there, those would be your solar farms and that which are excluded, because those do go way out of sight on, so that would double it. Next. As you know, we cover many other entities. One of them be Parowan City. We have since actually 1993 since it was required to be licensed and certified as building inspectors. So I don't know why those others got dropped off there, but they have. As you notice, it was an all-time back in just before the recession was their all-time high. Next should be their valuation there again, same thing. Don't take that as taxable valuation, but there's their valuation chart. Next one probably is going to be Paraguna, isn't it, John? Oh, Brian Head. We done them when it was required to be in 93 also to be licensed and certified, but there's their figures just since they came back with us. They left us for just a few years. Now they're back with us for the last 4 years. Probably Brian Head's valuations are next. Yep, so you can kind of see what theirs are there. Next. We've done Canara and Paraguna, the same thing. We done them back when it was required. They was contracting with, I don't know if you remember, Bruce, but I think they were contracting with you guys also for the garbage all through that. So they decided to try and keep it all in one spot. And, well, they went to Enoch, I think, for a while, both of them. And so they left us completely as a county. So that's kind of some of their figures. Next, you can just go on down through those, John. Now, at that point, again, the same thing, valuations and so forth, number of buildings, break down a little bit. Here's a really good chart that I really do appreciate. This was Chelsea's idea just 3 or 4 years ago to develop. That gives you an excellent thing there if you read like I'm colorblind, so I hope I get these right. The far left one says building permits will be your totals month to month. On the unincorporated area only in the top one, you have your single family dwellings broken out, you have your additions broken out, your accessory buildings. Even everybody thinks that the solar has gone wild. It has in the cities. Those are only rooftop solars there in kind of the darker purplish color. The next one, miscellaneous electrical, gas, and things in the next column. And then the last one being your commercial. That is excellent breakdown to let us know where we're at. And then the bottom ones are your totals of all the entities that we do, which is very interesting because if you go clear to the bottom, because you have your combined totals, and the very bottom one there is the differences in them. You notice everything is a rise in the number of building permits in each category except for the solar. When you go into that one, the ones in red are minuses. And that should be the end of that, I think, John, isn't it? Oh, there's one. Okay, there's a good one. Kind of compared to date over last year. Everybody thinks it slowed down. And some of your subs, especially that you've been talking to, Commissioner Bleak, you keep hammering me on that we're slowing down. Well, our numbers don't show it. Year to date right there in the unincorporated areas, the numbers that we're tracking, as you'll notice, our number of building permits are still up over 18. And scroll on down, John. If you get clear to the bottom, it should give you the difference that overall we are still ahead. That next chart coming up right there, same one I explained before. If you'll notice the far right column, all the combined, the very last one, is we're still up 4 overall. And what's real interesting is the single family dwellings, everybody says is slowing down, is still up over 10. I think those are some big ancient figures. I don't think everybody's into stats as big as I am, but because you're interested in studying those in the future,
Thank you.
that is some great information for our office, and I hope for the public. The realtors love it. The home builders like that kind of information. So on with the report is then. Stay on the building for just for the first little bit there. As you know, over 2 years ago, we chose to go to an online system called My City. We appreciate the commissioner supporting us in that move. It has not been utilized a whole lot, but those that do utilize it, especially your larger contractors, the ones that do more volume, they do appreciate it. They do like to use that. In doing so, we've done away with several of the requirements then. One of the big ones being that we've done away with, that we're getting beat up on by the subcontractors, but the generals are loving it, is the information form no longer requiring signatures by the subcontractors. We also, at that same time, done away with the requirements for the owners to sign the plans. We haven't heard much back on that because they probably don't even realize that we've done away with it. It has been a little bit of a protection for the generals to do that once in a while, but the generals are kind of happy they don't have to do that at this time either. We eliminated the acknowledgement and agreement to establish improvements is no longer required, and there is nothing that and also the power agreement, and nothing requires recording at this time. With those fees going up, I'm sure our contractors and owners and things will really appreciate that. However, there's still one form that requires notarization that we have no control over. It's a state form, and that is if you're an owner builder. We do work with probably well over 50%. I went down if it isn't 60% of owner builders. By the time you include all your accessory buildings and so forth, we work with a lot of owner builders. So that will still be have to remain in there. Ever since we have gone to My City, Chelsea has worked hard with the owner of My City. She has a very good personal relationship with the person that developed that program. They're out of St. George area, actually lives in Santa Clara. And she has worked with them hard to try to get a one-site location that all the contractors and builders could log on to, and they could view everything that they have in that system. I think we're about there. I have taken that one step further to say our contractors deserve the service, not only through the Iron County Building Department, but also through every department that works on My City. So I've been coordinated with Washington, Beaver, and Garfield counties, and all those jurisdictions therein that utilize the same program. And I think that is all but there. Now, unfortunately, not all of them are agreeing to participate in that. But those that are, we are coordinating that. I think that's a good service to our contractors. Another they're saying along the building and My City is that we're trying to spread the word that the Iron County Commissioners have mandated that after March 31st, 2019, they can no longer submit anything through our building department if it doesn't come online concerning building permits. It's been interesting, gentlemen. But you want it, we'll do it. That's the way it is. And that was a group decision, so we hope it works out.
I'm confident it will. It takes
Well, it'll
people
work
a while to
because
get
they won't have any
comfortable
other
with that,
choice.
but
They got to
sure
do it.
makes a big difference as they get used to it.
Okay. Anyway, we've had that discussion before, but I will support you in that and do as you have indicated. There's always contractors. There's not hardly a week goes by that a contractor and builder doesn't come to me and say, is there anybody you know of that knows how to work, has a good work ethic, that is willing to learn a trade? We are really lacking in the trades right now for building construction. As you know, I'm very active in the Iron County Home Builders Association. I appreciate them accepting me and allowing me to be part of that. I sat on 2 different committees still to this day. I've chaired several committees for them and really enjoy that association with them. It does help to keep me in reality, and it's a very great resource, and we do have a good association there. One of the things that we've done through them is that one of them that I have sat on and chaired, I actually started it, was the Education Committee for the Iron County Home Builder Association. We went through and decided that we needed to get into some of the schools and see what we could do. Since I sat on committees for the SUU and for the Trade Tech, I was able to do those 2 fairly easy. But just recently, we went into the high schools and introduced them to the trades. I was able to teach actually about 10 different classes, over 200 students over a time period, and hopefully generated some interest. We got some good feedback. The builders have got some good feedback from it, and hopefully we can generate more interest in getting them some help. It was quite exciting to do. Along those lines also, I've been asked for the 5th year in a row to go in and do mock interviews in some of the schools, in the high schools, for their seniors, and generate interest there through this. That's quite fun to do for a few hours for every year. In addition to that, they also ask us to job shadow, and for the last 5 years in a row now, we have taken on 6 to 8 students to job shadow for a couple of hours during the day. So it doesn't take up a lot of time, but I think it's a great service. I think it's a great thing. And I hope I do have the support there. If I don't, I'll change my direction there if this body doesn't.
Oh, that's great. Outreach to the students.
But I think
awesome.
it has been really good for representation for the county, the builders, and the schools. Okay, let's move on to planning and zoning for just a real quick second here. So the planning and zoning, as you know, we've worked on some big issues and some tough issues over the last couple of years. Some of them we're still working on, trying to implement into our zoning and so forth, is urban farming developments. We've worked hard on, as you know, and you've been very involved in the northern end of the Belt Loop. Steve has been more involved than any of us, and we appreciate you, Steve. He has coordinated very well with the planning department that I'm over. Just for your interest, we do have another solar farm that we just approved out on the Burl area, the first phase of it, another big one. I believe the first phase of it's about 780 acres. So we're getting very quickly, we have approved in land use permits, and some of them already building permits, pretty close to 20,000 acres of solar panels on the ground. I'm pretty proud of that. It's a great industry for us, I feel like.
Is that the Cove Mountain?
It is, yes. Yep. We do continue to have inquiries, too, every week about more solar farms. We also have, we still get inquiries quite a bit about group homes. They've not gone away. We just approved another one to up their numbers. It's already in existence, but last month there was, if you remember, Commissioner Adams, you've been here the longest. You probably remember working with the one out near Bumblebee. They asked for another reasonable accommodation to up their numbers into about another eight students.
So what's their total with that 8?
24 now.
24. Okay.
Yeah. They have been a pretty good one, though. We really haven't had much complaints on them. They seem to have some really good organization there. As you know, the big one we've been working through is the short-term rentals. I hope that comes to a head today. We appreciate the commissioners in working with us up front. Reed and I spent a lot of time in trying to help you whittle out a way to where I think we're all happy with it. I hope today that it can get there. I can't thank Commissioner Blake enough publicly when you came to me and asked me about that ordinance and things, and I indicated, I says, you know, we get a lot of complaints, we get about these, but even more so, we have people that just want to be legal, that every week was calling us to see what that ordinance is for the last year and a half, saying where it is. I know you got behind it and pushed it. I cannot thank you enough for bringing that forward, and it's giving us something to work with for the people that want to be legal. They understand that through the zoning, once it's listed on that chart, once we have that definition, that it protects them, that the county can help them then, that it will take care of the complaints, and it protects the applicants and those that own them, even probably more so than the neighborhood at this point. So thanks a million, Commissioner Blake. You've really done us a good job there. And not that you haven't, Commissioner Adams.
Oh,
he was over our department.
Done great. We're good. Thank you.
Okay. Unfortunately, in the zoning enforcement, I know that we're all getting hammered on that pretty hard right now with spring coming on, and we're going to get hammered worse. But with all of the building that we just pointed out that's going on, with those kind of numbers, we're lucky in these departments that all of our maintenance people and all of our zoning officers pull double and triple duty, wearing multiple hats, and they're all certified and licensed to do building inspections. We put the emphasis on that, try to keep that moving the most. The maintenance, we can sub out a lot of it, which we do the majority of it anyway. Unfortunately, we appreciate the courthouse and John and you and Bart. I know jump in and shovel a lot of snow because it does tie us up with the building so bad. But everybody, we have great employees. Everybody jumps up and helps what they can where they can. We really appreciate it. But we can kill an economy if we don't keep the building moving, and it just dynamos from there. So we do, that's where we end up putting our emphasis. The only way to do it would be hire a whole bunch more people for the zoning. We haven't, and we've talked about that a lot, and I think we're all in agreement there of what page we're on. I think it's still a good page at this point. Let's have to keep evaluating that in the future to see what happens. To wrap it up, move on to budgets and personnel. Our budgets are still in check really good. Some of the maintenance things that we're trying to do, I skipped the maintenance, I'm sorry. We're trying to get bids back to fix the landscaping at the visitor centers. You remember we broke a water line there a couple of times last winter, and it's still tore up. Luckily, we had some great talent, 2 plumbers on our maintenance department that jumped right in immediately, spent a couple of weekends even, and got us put back together there with the plumbing, but the landscaping still needs to be fixed. We're standing by on the EOC building to see what we all decide there as a group, and I appreciate the commissioners. You've done well on that, and just whatever you want to do when you want to pull the trigger there on that one, we'll do whatever you want to there. I think it's got a lot of discussion yet to go that needs to be done probably outside this meeting, but the other big thing is the Fiddler's building. That hopefully we'll get time. We did receive another offer on that. You should have received that by now. We sent it to you.
Yeah, I don't consider that a real offer, but anyway.
That gives us 2 though, and maybe it puts us more in reality of how good the first one really was, and all that building doing is costing us money, so we really would like to move forward and move on that if we could. I know that timeline is getting close, so let's keep that on the burner if we can, please. So anyway, as I said, budgets are holding up, and it's early in the year, holding up real good. We did have a difficult time, as I indicated we would, but I appreciate your support. Those that did support me in hiring a new one, we had a little bit of a glitch in that after the fact. I don't know if you heard about it, Commissioner Adams, but we got Commissioner Blake there again over our department.
I didn't hear about the glitch.
Real quick. And we didn't receive the amount or the people that I expected to apply. But there again, coming spring, everybody's jumping. We lost 2 more from down in the Washington County area that jumped and went north. They're on the end of their career now. They're looking for the money, just like the example of Larry Palmer done. And that's always going to happen to us. I don't think there's anything we can do about it except move forward and keep doing the best we can. But we did offer that to a gentleman last Friday that I know quite well, and he did accept it. So Adrian will bring that before you today, and hopefully he can continue to support us in that. But thank you there again, Commissioner. You've done great in helping us through that dilemma there. So overall, it does come down to we are short-staffed. We could use 2 or 3 building inspectors and 2 or 3 more zoning officers. The building inspectors just aren't out there, so we're just going to have to do the best we can, see what these year's numbers bring there again. We've talked about that a lot in the past.
Is the new individual, will he strictly be building inspection, or will he do any
inspection
maintenance?
zoning officer, yeah.
That's what I thought.
And he has lots of experience. He has actually been a building official for 17 years in another jurisdiction, so.
Great.
Yeah,
Was he a contractor here in Iron County before?
No, no. He has lots of building experience. He actually grew up in southern Utah area. Actually you'll appreciate this, over in Panguitch.
Oh, there you go.
He still resides in Panguitch this time until then. Said he can't quite stand Cedar. You're going to have another residence in Parowan. He says he loves Parowan, so I think he's going to end up here. And I don't blame him.
Mother town.
Myself a couple of times. Yep. Okay. Anyway, just to wrap it up, then what it comes down to is this whole county is that we still have great dedicated employees. It shows through winters when times get tough. They always jump in and help everywhere they can. We appreciate all of you, all the employees that do get involved. Cindy, you're the only department head in here. Your office does it too. Helps us a lot, bringing stuff to our attention where we don't get around every day. And we are working on some items for the courthouse, warranties. If any of you know of any, point them out to us there that we need to work over again, because we're right on the end of that there. We have had a little bit of trouble with the roof over at the public safety building. Unfortunately, the warranty has gone on that, but we do have a little bit of problems there. We think we got that finally fixed right this last week. So anyway, we do appreciate all the employees of Iron County. We do have a real good bunch of dedicated employees, and as far as departments that I oversee, we'll always continue to do what we can to, with the resources we have, and we appreciate and it isn't that, I need to clarify that, it isn't that you don't support me in the resources that I need, it's that you are understanding enough to know that there's only so many resources out there, and thank you, commissioners.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any
Chad.
questions?
Appreciate it. Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. You, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll just talk about the yellow items on the list. If you want to talk about some others, commissioners, just ask and we'll go there. These are not necessarily in order of priority. Budget's on track. 7700 West Lake Road. The prison crew has finished the fencing. It's very pleasurable to report that and not talk to you about having a fencing crew, but they're all completed with that. RS 2477 roads, Tyler Farling was the young man who was driving the brand new Toyota with the GPS on top that does the 360. He came to us and thought the state was going to ask for an office for him to download everything he'd done. He's working from home, I've discovered, so that request for an office is no longer real. Sunset Subdivision, you know, we had the public hearing on them a couple of meetings ago. They do and can deed to us all of their roads. I'm of the opinion that before we go in and improve the roads, we ought to have them deed them to us so that we own them. We'll be back to your meeting on the 13th. We'll count the votes. If they don't have 40% opposed, we'll have a assessment area, and we'll go ahead with 5.2 miles of road construction.
Great.
The Alton Cole asking
Question on that, Steve.
I just was curious. One of the things that kind of came out of that meeting that people had talked about the option of trying to do just an improved dirt road versus the faulty chip seal that was there. Is that I never did. They asked several times, and I could never really tell what our answer was.
At this point, our answer is to stay the way it has been advertised, and that's a chip seal road.
Okay.
Building a base underneath it and then putting chip seal on it.
And because that's what
If this fails, we can always come back with a gravel road. We'll go back to them with the costs of that improvement. They'll go through the procedure. But given the way we've advertised it, John, we have to stay with where we are.
we advertised for chip seal.
Yes.
So therefore, we're going to follow that
Exactly.
process through.
Exactly.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because
Yeah.
coming out of the meeting, I wasn't sure if everybody was on the same page with that one, at least with what everybody seemed to be.
Well,
Well,
the
thank you.
conversations I've had, that's what we've indicated, other than when we were here in the meeting.
Right.
Okay.
May I, Steve, on that? The reason we're hanging in there with the chip seal also is because our Iron County design standards for new subdivisions require a hard pavement type chip seal, which our engineers have been very comfortable that's just as good as those.
Okay.
So we really need to hang in there.
We don't have any option in a new subdivision for a gravel standard?
We do not.
Okay. I guess I didn't realize that.
I need to clarify, if you're in anything up to a 20-acre subdivision, anything less than
Okay.
that,
Okay. And of course, this isn't a new subdivision, but so they could go that way but it seemed to me that
Right.
the majority wanted to go with the chip seal, and then because of everything you've said, we're going to stay that course until something changes it.
Good, thank you.
So
Thank you. That's good clarification.
Alton Coal Mine, we're getting prepared to ask CIB for $5 million. We've discovered a couple of items that we probably need to firm up before we go to the board and ask for that. One is that we'd like to go on a tour of the mine and have a member of CIB from the Transportation Commission go with us. So Alma's very familiar with where that is. Do you want to talk any more about that today, Commissioner?
Sure, go ahead. I had that in my report. Go ahead and give what you have at this point.
We visited Nagi. Did I say that correctly?
Right.
He's in St. George, but he's a member of CIB. He's the one that also related to Commissioner Adams. But the first thing he said to us is, how much is Alton Coal going to contribute to this? And we had realized that Alton Coal's going to have to build a $10 million loadout facility, plus all the other expenses that business had. At this point, we hadn't asked them for part of the $5 million, but we're going to go back to them and ask them to contribute part of the road improvement, not only the loadout station. So that conversation is yet to be had. We hope it'll happen this month. Bob Need, who is the owner, promised he'd be here in Cedar within 30 days, and he'd come and meet with us, and we'll discuss that.
I would like to report a little bit on that. During the CIB prioritization meeting last week, Gary Zabriskie, who kind of helps coordinate that, mentioned that he's kind of advocated on our behalf with Candace Powers, who sets that up. But he also noted that for what the Community Impact Board was set up for, this is exactly what the Community Board was set up for. A lot of times we'll have projects that aren't maybe directly involved, but the impact of those extractive efforts, that's what that is meant to pay for. So we've got this. I mean, we are the perfect definition of that. He was kind of saying, and so he's advocated on our behalf more than once with some of those CIB folks. So he's been a good advocate for us.
And we worked with him as we prepared the grant application, and he guided us to ask for a grant. Not a loan and a grant, but we'll see how it comes down.
Yeah, he felt very strongly that it would be unfair to the citizens of Iron County to subsidize something that's going to primarily benefit the citizens of Kane County. And that was kind of, and he's got a point.
Yeah, exactly. In our speaking, if I may, with Bob Need, he's been held up now by the Office of Surface Mining. His permits with BLM are secure. That took quite a few years, and he can go forward. But now the Office of Surface Mining, which is a federal agency, has said it's going to be like another 100 days. And so that was the main thing that caused us to postpone, because people from CIB have said, well, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? We keep hearing it's going to happen. And I truly believe it is, but we're going to wait until we have things more nailed down, and then we'll go to CIB for the money. And as Steve said, Alton Coal is going to have to put up some money to help with the road also, and then it'll be more amenable to CIB. That's our understanding.
So moving on to the Paraguna EWP, we have $1 million there. All of that is presently being designed, the improvements that we'll make. Curtis is hauling riprap from the landfill to make our match. That EWP money is 75% grant from NRCS and 25% local match. The Parowan, now this is a different pot of money. The Parowan Watershed Protection and Flood Prevention Operations Project. We're moving forward on that. We met with the the engineer and Lance Smith Friday. Talked about what we're doing there, what are our priorities. So that's moving forward. In addition to Parowan and what will be done, we have 4 other projects, one in Summit, one in Paraguna, and one for Little Creek. Any questions on those? There's a whole bunch of details there on the construction, but if we can, okay. I'll go forward. The Forest Service has come up with money for 2 bridges, both off of 143, one to the Yankee and one on 2nd Left-Hand Canyon, because after the forest fire, those bridges were both overtopped with the flooding, and so they'd like to replace those bridges. They've done all the design work. The construction, because of the water that we have coming off this year with the snow, will be done in September, October, and November. So there'll be 2 new bridges right there adjacent to Highway 143 on those two roads. You know about the Upper Basin Road to the Kolob Reservoir and the lock that we had on it. I'm hearing, don't know specifically yet of anything, but that in the Paraguna area there are a few more locks appearing on gates, similar to that circumstance.
I have not heard that.
Have you not?
No.
Reed told me of a couple. But as we get into more details there, I'll get to you.
Okay, yeah, and we've already ordered or asked our road department to go and take that lock off up there. They did, and then apparently after the first big snow, we found out that it had actually been put back on. As soon as, speaking of the Upper Basin, as soon as we can get in there, we're going to take that back off. Washington County never did get their side removed, but they're going to, and we continue to get letters regarding that. We have a very good case. I hope it doesn't go to litigation, but we're not going to allow that road to be closed. They can close the gate, but they can't lock it.
Amen.
So, but yeah, let me know about the ones in the Paraguna area. I hadn't heard.
I will. I thought you'd know more about it than I did, but okay.
I hadn't heard about
no calls
them.
yet, huh? Okay. The Cedar Valley Belt Route Alignment, Horrocks engineers have completed that. We've taken it through the Planning Commission. We've taken it through the Regional Transportation Planning Organization with 5 County, and that will be on your agenda soon to firm that final recommendation for the Belt Route up. Shoal Creek, recently, Paul, Commissioner Cousins, and I spent an hour with Lee and Howard Bracken. It had run pretty good 2 weeks ago, and so had Holt Canyon. Enterprise Upper Reservoir is a little over half full. Given the snow that's out there, Brackens don't think it's going to overflow this year. The upper, the lower's full, but hopefully no more significant water will come from that direction on the Shoal Creek drainage. The big portion of the water comes from the Gold Springs Road as towards Nevada. There's a huge basin there, and when you get rain on snow, you can get an awful lot of water. That water did make it down to Highway 56 this year, but it spread on farmland and did nothing significant other than take out our road on the county line, which we'll be putting back. Holt Canyon ran significantly. There was a detention basin made in that drainage 3 years ago. We took part of that water to divide and conquer, brought it to a pond that Bob Holt has, and then bringing it east towards Newcastle. That functioned exactly like we wanted it to. The main water did go down and cross Highway 18 in several places, but basically it was just flowing slowly on farmland, so there was no damage there either. 5900 North is a possible assessment area. We'll have a public hearing at your next meeting. You'll learn all the details. That's a chip-sealed effort too. That's 5900 North, just off of Airport Road in the Cedar Valley. There's 21 residences involved. And then that will be back to you on the 10th of June to see if those 21, no more than 40% have voted against that. The next sheet, the last item is a new item, Quichapa Recharge. Commissioner Cousins is excited about that, but it's on the bottom. It doesn't mean that's the last priority, but it's on the list. Curtis's list, you can see the many things he needs to do. Also on that, let me call your attention, the bottom item is digging a channel from the Quichapa channel in the mouth of the canyons there, left and right hand, over to our 7.5 acres that we got from Cedar City for a material source. In my opinion, that material source pit is not big enough at the present time. We need to mine it for about 2 more years at least, and hopefully 5. So we have a significant pit there to put the Quichapa water in.
Is that Quichapa water? I mean, it's probably not doesn't have as many dissolved solids as Coal Creek, does it?
No, I don't
Wondered
think
about that.
so, but I don't know. I don't have that information, but I would doubt it. But the idea is to keep it from getting to the lake where it does become polluted with those solids, putting it in a basin sooner, higher up in the drainage where it'll recharge better and help the aquifer.
It's running very clear when we were out there the other day. I mean, on a rain event, or if we get warmed up real fast, it may have some riliness to it, but it was running very clear the other day.
Commissioners, you're going to hear a lot about how much snow there is and what could happen. Briefly, we're in much better shape than we were in '05, both in Cedar Valley and Parowan Valley. If everything comes off uniformly, we're going to be just fine. Don't panic, but there are some people that are panicking and they're worried, and a couple of them are state agencies over dams, but I think everything's going to be just fine. Any questions?
You guarantee that? No. I'm feeling good, especially.
My crystal ball is only so good.
Oh, I think you're correct. We'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate the good report. Okay, Preston, good morning.
How's it going?
Good. Good to have you here. Thank you.
I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I'll just go down through my list here. And so the things we're currently working on, if you have any questions, stop me. But working on Vandenberg Road. It's been a pretty good winter this year, so it slowed us down. We've had to work in some other places. We worked, when it was too wet, we went over on 1000 South and 1400 South. That's off of 5700. We had one's a half mile and the other one's a quarter mile that's not paved. Didn't have any chip on it, so we'll tie them in. They were always kind of a thorn in our side.
South or north?
South.
Or south?
Just off of 5700 off the new belt route.
Oh, okay. I know we.
But
Okay.
we'll tie them in. They're just kind of been a thorn in the side all the time. They're always rough. So we also, as it's been too wet, have worked on 7700 North. That's the Quichapa Road. Did a little bit of work there.
That one. That one. is
West,
west.
sorry.
Okay, we're good. We'll get it all straight.
Typo.
We're good. We'll get it all straight here.
Anyway, I planned on working there in February, and that was a real bad month to do anything. So that one's kind of a little bit slowed down. We've been plowing a lot of snow. With all the moisture, we've been getting quite a few potholes, and so patching. Just with a cold patch to get us till spring. We've got our gravel crushed out on the Vandenberg pit out there, 50,000 yards. So we've been placing that on the Vandenberg Road. That's been really speeds things up, having it close like that.
Oh, while you're there, one thing on that, the pile that's right next to the pit, can you start taking gravel from it on the west side? So if we need to berm that up to handle more water, would that be feasible? That was one.
Yeah, I
thing.
think we already got it.
Already started.
I don't know, when was the last time you were out there?
Oh, it's been a week, 10 days.
Yeah, I'll bet it's pretty much cleared off. It's almost up to the power pole. There's that lone pile we were going to start getting out of, the one that was kind of would be off to the northwest right there. We'll get that.
Perfect, thank you.
Then just grading roads that with the cold, they've been frozen and wet. They've got behind on them, so working on that. Last week was a pretty good week, and this week also. Looking ahead, we're going to start patching around May 15th. That's when hot plants should start opening up. So as soon as they get going, we'll get going there. We'll be 1st of May. We'll be placing some chip around, some in Parowan where we need it. A lot of it, the roads we're going to chip are going to be close to Western's pit. That's who actually got the bid this year for the chip, so we won't have to move it. So that'll be good. That helps out a lot. And then we'll be cleaning up roads so that we can chip them. I don't know if you want to know a list of roads. That Westview's one of the roads. Cane Springs, we need to do the third lift on it. Fifetown, we'll do the third lift on it. 1000 and 1400 South, we'll chip them for the first time. Rollo Lane, which is 4000 North, is another one
That's
that
the one I was
we'll be able to
confused
do.
with 1400s, yeah. Okay, great. That'll be so good to have those done.
That will be that will get done. The Vandenberg Road, would like to do 2 miles, or the plan is to do 2 miles of that, up to 7700 West. 3000 North, Mid Valley Road, and Bulldog Road. And then I need to get I haven't got the oil bids back yet, but then I'll know if we can do more or less from there. But should be able to do all those. Would also, at the end of April, if it dries out or works out, we'll like to do some Iron Wolf up Canara Mountain from the sheep kraals or the kraals up to the red ledges. And we'll be getting a grader. So we had our bid opening for the grader, and Caterpillar Wheeler got that. The bid was $289,000, but the buyback in 4 years is $261,000. So it's $28,000, pretty much to use it. So
Can't beat that.
So that should be a good deal, and that's all I got. If you got any questions.
Okay, sounds good. I've definitely had more calls this winter than ever before regarding roads, and I just have told people we can't really plow mud into a hole. It's not.
And a lot of them aren't even our roads. So
and I know, and we've helped out. Yeah.
So
many of the calls have been roads that aren't ours, and we're going to do as best we can to help out a little bit on those, shape them up. But I hope this 5900 North assessment area catches on around that whole area.
Oh yeah, that'll be great.
Problem straightened out. So anyway,
all right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, Bruce. Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, thank you for allowing me to be here. Our budget's pretty good. There's a couple of things that I got to move. I've talked to August that I applied to the wrong thing, but it's a simple fix. Dan said we could get to it. It was just on some contracts that we had, and I coded it the wrong way. I just finished the spring water samples for this year. We got one well that we've had problems with in the past, and I think that I'm going to have to pull the pump and see what's going on. But we have clear till next fall to get that done. We'll have to pull it and see what's going on. But everything went pretty smooth there. I won't have the results back for a couple of weeks, but I feel good about it. There's a new way of reporting our tonnage and what we owe the state every year. That's going quarterly. With that, we used to just do the tons, the amount of tons that went in the MSW, that's the municipal solid waste, was our fee was based on that. Now, because of House Bill 115, that's changing, and will be assessed 11 cents a ton on, no, I take that back, 21 cents a ton on the stuff that goes in the C&D and the stuff that goes into the MSW. So we'll go from probably, well, our contribution for 2018 was $3,250. We're going to be in the neighborhood of $14,000. So, but we knew it was coming. We've budgeted for it, but it's coming to the head now. I got to go to a training. I'm going to be attending a training on Thursday in Salt Lake to talk about that, and also talk about tires and used oil. If you guys remember, there was in Salt Lake County, there was a pond that got filled with used tires, and that's attracted the notice of the state and the state senators. So we got a new training coming up with that. We're looking forward to get it out of the muddy season. We've had a lot of mud, lots and lots of mud, as you guys know. All our equipment's working pretty good. We got one truck that's in the shop trying to get so that we can get the compaction on the truck working better so we can put more cans in. And the second page is it's just a snapshot of what we are today from January 1st, 2019. And the second page is that same snapshot for 2018. And you can see that we're up a little. Class 1 would be the household trash. That's the MSW pit. And then if you go to Class 4, that's the construction and demolition. And you can see it's down quite a bit. In fact, less than half of what we had last year in construction and demolition from what we are this year. I don't know if the weather has that effect on it and people aren't building like they are, but my numbers would support that, same as you, Commissioner Blake, that things are slowed down. I guess I do have one concern that's not on this paper, and that's the solar farms. I haven't heard anything about them. I don't know if they have their waste management plans. I haven't seen any of that, if they've issued permits or what, but they are going to be required to recycle. I don't know if you've talked to them about that or not, but I haven't seen any of it. So that's just the only concern, is that we're in front of them, know that they need a waste management plan for the construction of those.
For all that cardboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, coordinate with Chad, and hopefully that won't be.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, any questions?
I don't have any at this time.
No.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All of you, appreciate those reports very much. I failed to excuse Commissioner Cousins. He is in Washington, D.C. at a conference.
Some sort of a mental health conference.
So not for himself, just anyway. So we always have to joke that way. We did that with Brink. All right, Commissioner, do you have any items?
Not real. No, not the report today. I've got a bunch of projects, but nothing ready to report on just yet. So.
Okay, thank you. We pretty much talked about most of what I was going to talk about with the Alton Coal with Steve. We appreciate that. One thing, if you have a minute, go out to the fairgrounds. We've got the covers on the new bleachers are installed, and they are awesome. So that's going to be nice. We're going to be able to have cover from sun and rain for a lot more people this year and into the future. So, okay, we'll take a short break and be back in about 5 minutes to reconvene. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm good.
Let's see, what's that? Time did that start? 2. So, just pick me up out here at 1:30 or, well, a little before that, 1:15 or something like that. Yeah, I'll just meet you out front here at 1:15 or so.
I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are reconvened. First item is public comment period. The floor, the mic is open for public comment at this time. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 2, discussion and possible adoption of ordinance 2019-1 regarding short-term rentals. This has been a long time coming. We've had our public hearing, and at this time Reed Erickson, our county planner, will give us a further explanation, and then we'll go to the vote.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We have had significant modifications to this draft that you have, that is the same draft that we've had circulating for the past few weeks. Let me just highlight a couple of changes that really outline the majority of what has happened. The ordinance now allows for short-term rental in all residential zones as a permitted use, whether we did away with the categories of incidental and business, no matter how often they do it or how many times they do it. It's treated the same, and it's now listed in the ordinance as a permitted use in R1 half, R1, all zones. Previously, it was not a permitted use or an allowed use in the R1 half zone. It was allowed in other residential zones, but now this draft, as it's been modified, is allowed in all zones. So to be commensurate with the other uses in the table, we also then modified the table of uses to allow the bed and breakfast and boarding houses in all zones, bed and breakfast as a permitted use in all residential zones. Anywhere there's a residence allowed, then it's also allowed there in addition to a commercial zone. So now they're allowed as commercial zones in the commercial zone as well. And so those are the biggest changes. It still requires a licensing business license with the clerk's office and registration with the state of Utah for the collection of sales and use tax and transient room tax. So that's really a brief overview of the major changes.
Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll have a lot better collection on the transient room tax, so we have a level playing field countywide. And I assume you have a list of the people that have come in wanting to start their short-term rental but haven't been able to because we didn't have an ordinance, and so they can move forward now. And so
yeah,
a lot of good things.
We do have several of them who've been inquiring quite often.
That's good. Any questions for Reed before we go to the vote?
No, and I mean, this has been a long process. I appreciate the willing to communicate back and forth and work it out, and I appreciate it. I would move to approve adoption of ordinance 2019-1 regarding short-term rentals.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2019-1 regarding short-term rentals. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks so much for all the work. At this time, we will adjourn as County Commission and convene as Board of Equalization. Is Christine?
She should be. Thank you.
Christine Louder from the Auditor's Office will be here shortly for this item.
She's often watching, so where it can be streamed, and so.
Okay.
Maybe item 1 went faster than she anticipated.
On her way? She's on the phone. Okay.
Okay.
We're good. Thank you. This item is to review, to approve or deny one application for property tax exempt status held over from our last meeting, March 11th. Christine Louder will be here momentarily.
She was on the phone, and she'll be here as soon as she can.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Good morning, Christine. Come right up. Oh, he's got to check on one item. Okay.
He hasn't been inside for very long.
Okay. Welcome, Christine.
When
Okay.
everybody said they're waiting for you. It's like,
We've announced the agenda item, so you
Yes,
can
okay.
go ahead when you're ready.
all right. Oh, here it is.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay, this is a carryover from last commission meeting regarding a property that is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is adjacent and north of the Cedar Temple, and it's along Cove Drive. So I printed off what I could so you can kind of see the property that we're talking about. I have tried to contact Dale Jones, that is over the properties for the LDS Church, and I have not been able to catch up with him. Anyway, he's been sick. So anyway, I did call this morning, and they said that he was not in the office yet. So I was hoping to hear from him before I came in. This property was apparently, from what I've been able to gather, was donated to the church after the subdivision that's up in this little box up here. You can see the layout of the subdivision, and this property that's squiggled out is the same one that's right here on the actual photo. It was donated to them by the people that put in the subdivision, because basically it's property they can't develop because it's the side of that hill as you go up Cove Drive. So the reason I stopped to talk to Cindy before I came up was to determine whether or not she felt that it had any value. She does. So in talking with Trevor and Brian Thursday down in the assessor's office, they said that the property had been reduced in price because it's not buildable.
The slope.
Yeah. But like I say, I don't know what the church's plans are for it. I don't know if they're going to terrace it and throw some seeds out on it. You can't park on it, I don't think. It'd be kind of difficult. I don't know that they can build on it. So I don't know whether you want to make a decision to maybe have the assessors look at it and see if it needs to be re-evaluated. I think it was at $25,000. Could be wrong on that. I apologize. I thought I had time this morning, and then I kept getting interrupted. So so we could either postpone it. I kind of hate doing that, to look at it again, or you could just have the assessor's office take a look and make an adjustment, or leave it as is and then leave that up to the LDS Church to determine if they wanted to proceed with, appealing that. I do recall Mr. Jones saying that if it was not approved, he would understand. At the time, I didn't realize what the property was.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, well, I'm sure it has some value, and
Yeah.
they may just want to leave it pristine as it is. I don't know, and that's up to them. But But if it's strictly used for church purposes, then it would be exempt. That's what we have to arrive at.
The thing is, if it's property that they're holding for further development, it does not qualify.
Has to be actually used.
Mm-hmm.
Because a charitable or religious organization owns property, does not exempt it. It has to actually be used for that purpose.
Okay.
I mean,
so
if it's landscaping or parking, then that would constitute use.
Used for that
But
purpose. But
right now, it's just the side of a hill with cedar trees on it, junipers, whatever they are.
So if it's not tax exempt, it still does have whatever value you've placed on it.
Mhm.
Of course, they can appeal that, but
I would think, well, I would think that the best course of action would be to see if we can have a value placed on it.
Have it reevaluated.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to spit out, to have it reevaluated. And then determine from there. I'd like to certainly hear from our assessor.
In case you didn't both know, I do assess things every year according to the state constitution, and I will put a value on it, and I will take into consideration the topography. I will not take into consideration the ownership. I do not take that into consideration in any values.
right.
If it is used for a use, then Christine, for certain use, charitable, religious, or educational, then Christine will make a recommendation for that. But it has to be used for one of those three uses. So yes, you can tell me to do that, but I will do that anyway, because that is part of what I swear to do every time I am sworn in. So.
And I would, yeah, we need to, I guess, know whatever the value is. But if it's a stark hillside, obviously it's not going to qualify for an exemption, unless they come back and do something else with it. So
I think we can move forward with Mike having stated the law and the clarification. Well, really not a clarification. We know you do that, Cindy, and we appreciate it. So anyway, is there further discussion? I would entertain a motion.
I would, I'd move to deny the application for property tax exempt status held over from our March 11th meeting, unless there's further development on the property.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we deny the application for property tax exemption on the subject property because there's, even though it's owned by a religious organization, they're not using it for any purpose. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thanks. Okay, we'll leave Board of Equalization and reconvene as the Iron County Commission. Item number 4, consider and possible approval of changes to the Iron County Personnel Policy, Section 34, regarding retirement of law enforcement officers. Commissioner Blake, are you speaking to that?
I'll speak to that. This question about, excuse me, a question about this policy arose when Sheriff Gower retired. Traditionally, and this is the kind of a tradition in law enforcement across the country, and it is. Hold on, my computer wants to install new updates. I don't want it to. So traditionally, when a law enforcement officer retires, makes it to that golden day of retirement, traditionally the agency presents them with their duty weapon as a gift, as far as kind of a symbol. They've carried that every day of their career and relied on that weapon. And traditionally, that weapon's presented to the to the officer upon his successful completion of a career. When we looked at the excuse me, at the policy, it was kind of unclear when Sheriff Gower left, and he had some question about actually purchasing purchasing his patrol rifle, and if there was policy that surrounded that. We kind of determined that there was not. So we worked on the policy a little bit and reworded it. Worked with Sheriff Carpenter, with Dan. And the way that this reads, the proposed new policy basically says, upon the retirement of an employee with over 10 years meritorious service or an elected official having served at least one full term, Iron County may provide a memento and or gathering to service the individual. This memento and or gathering may not exceed a combined cost of $200, and that was already in place. The new portion, number 2, says, additionally, upon the retirement in good standing of a law enforcement employee with over 10 years meritorious service or the elected sheriff having served at least one full term, Iron County may provide the duty weapon as a gift to recognize the service of the individual. If the employee chooses, they may opt not to take the duty weapon and instead purchase their duty rifle for half of the replacement cost. If the employee wants to obtain all of their firearm-related equipment, they will receive the duty weapon as a retirement gift and then may purchase the equipment at full replacement cost. In no case will the retiring employee be allowed to purchase their duty rifle if it is fully automatic. And when it refers to the duty weapon in here, it's the sidearm. It's their handgun. So basically this would allow us as a county to provide that handgun as a gesture and a gift for a job well done in retirement. If they don't want their pistol, then they can pay half of the replacement cost for a rifle. If they want the pistol and the rifle, they can pay full replacement price for the rifle, and we're not going to give anybody a machine gun as a retirement gift. Much to my dismay, as I left my machine gun back in the cabinet at the Cedar City Police Department when I retired. So that's the proposal, and this really does brings us up to standard with everybody else. It's tradition, every department in Iron County has basically the same policy, but it's really a nationwide tradition. And I think that an officer deserves at least that. If they can make it 20 years and move on, then that's a small token of our appreciation.
Okay, very good. Any questions? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion.
With that, I would move to approve the changes to Iron County Personnel Policy, Section 34, regarding retirement of law enforcement officers.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the changes to the Iron County Personnel Policy, Section 34, as iterated by Commissioner Blake regarding retirement of law enforcement officers. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Question.
Yes. Oh, question after the fact.
I want to block that. So just a question. What if a building official makes it almost twice that? What do you do?
We're going to get you a brass-plated 2x4. Yeah, or something of equal value. So I'm gonna make you something real nice upon your retirement.
There you go. Thank you, Chet. Yes, Bill.
Give him a piece of that land that's on.
Yeah, one of the campsites. Yeah. We'll give you a sleeping bag to go with it.
Oh, brother.
All right, thank you. Item 5, review and possible approval of surplus list of insignificant real property to be posted on Iron County's website. John, would you please give some explanation? We've had some good work done on this lately, and we appreciate it. It's good progress.
We're making progress. So this is in relation to the ordinance that the commissioners approved last meeting regarding the disposition of real property. This is essentially the first round of updates to the surplus list. What you're looking at here is the working list for the commissioners. This will be what it will look like on the website. We won't have quite as much information. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So, just a little bit on this color coding. For the most part, the ordinance called for the minimum bid after 2 years to be $350. The bits in green show a few parcels that I basically said anything over 1.5 acres, we'll put the minimum at 500. But again, that's the ordinance allows for the commissioner's discretion. I can change that back or raise it or change the threshold to 1 acre or whatever if you want me to raise that minimum bid. But I think part of what we had discussed was to price them in a way that they moved quickly. There are a couple of parcels in that dark red. Those were some that I thought might have a little bit of an opportunity to get a fix in the recorder's office before we put them on the list. Part of my plan is to come back in 2 weeks to present an updated list showing the parcels that we acquired in ways other than the tax sale. So these parcels, and there are 6 pages of these parcels represent only the parcels that Iron County acquired via the tax sale. So we will add the other parcels that we acquired in different ways. One thing, we had one particular buyer interested in buying lots in the Parkview subdivision, and those, if you may recall, were stricken from the auction and also from the surplus list because they were in that Fisher zone. This is, in all cases, this is caveat emptor. This is buyer beware. But in particular, that Fisher zone is problematic. But this individual's worked with Commissioner Adams and Rob Dotson from Enoch City on that, and he hasn't told me what his plans are, but he has plans and he's interested. And those parcels did not make it on the list this time, but we will have them on the list for the next meeting. So the purpose today is to kind of go through this list, get it approved. We can get it on the website, assuming it gets approved. And then we will update it again in 2 weeks. That lighter pink or peach or skin color, I don't know, that peach color, we had a couple of question marks. If you look over on the year, there is question marks, and that's just because Iron County owned it before 1982. I don't think that necessarily, at this point, it doesn't matter how long we owned it, other than it was a long time. I went back and there was no history on any other ownership in our current system, and that began in 1982. So that's 37 years of not getting tax revenue on some of those. Also, right there at the top, I've got some under comments in this area right here that say too old for original amount, and that's because the original amount had to do with what the minimum bid was when it went to auction. But we also just left that at the 350, and in one case, 500. There's not much other there. That second red one had 0 acres, and I think we can calculate that acreage and put it on the list for the next time. And then, because it was about 2017 when the concern was raised about the list, we'd made it about halfway through updating the information, so the bid amount was never established, but we were able to insert it later, and because it's within the 2 years, we haven't lowered it to the 350. When you get to 2018, and the years are over on the left side, when you get to 2018, none of those were established because the list had been stopped at that point. So Chenille was good enough to go and get the original values or minimum bid from the auction, and that is what our minimum bid for the list will be until 2 years have transpired since we acquired the parcel. So basically, this is the list that is about half complete, but in the format this is what we'll put outward facing on the website, and it basically just has the year, account number, parcel, legal, acres, and minimum bid. We will put all of the language that we had before, warning the buyers that it is buyer beware, that we do not guarantee access, that we do not guarantee title. We simply provide them with a quitclaim deed. We do not warrant title nor access on these.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Cindy, please.
Question, not necessarily on the list itself, but
Yeah.
just the process.
Yeah.
Say I wanted to buy that, I don't know,
One of them.
and I put in a bid for the $350.
Yes.
And what's the process after that?
Then what happens? So we identified that in the ordinance. Basically, there's like a 1-week cooling period in case there is another party that's interested. If there is, then we'll just set a fixed date, and you and the other party or any parties that are interested will submit a sealed bid, and the highest bidder gets it. Otherwise, once you get funds to the clerk will prepare a deed. Yeah. We kind of have a week cooling period.
Other questions or comments? Okay. So we will have you'll get the rest of them hopefully by the next meeting.
Yeah, so we wanted to get this ready to go now, but we will get that other type, and then also the Parkview ones, because we do have a buyer, and because you, Commissioner, have worked with them. We had withheld those just out of public interest, but again, it's a buyer beware situation, and this individual has expressed that he gets that it's a Fisher zone.
Right.
So
and he doesn't automatically get those. Obviously, it'll still be a competitive situation.
Right.
Christine.
I know we said the $350, but with the new recording fee being $40,
Mm-hmm. No, because we're not responsible for the recording.
Oh, you're just giving them the deed and say, here you go.
Yeah. I mean, historically, I have prepared the deed and then asked them to write a separate check to the recorder, which is I'm still happy to do for them. Carrie Jeffries, our recorder, I had actually had something to that effect written in the ordinance, and she's like, "That's crazy! Don't do that." And she's right. So, I mean, I'm still willing to do that, and if the individuals are amenable to it, because sometimes they'll just submit it by mail, and they'll just do both checks. But yeah, is it April 1st? I think the recording fees change. Mm-hmm. May 1st. So.
Yeah, that's correct. May.
But either way, that's not part of the ordinance. That's a nicety that I might do for people if they ask, but we didn't include it in the ordinance. I probably will in most cases help them with that. But if they just want the deed, I'll just give them a deed.
Okay, other questions or discussion? All right, and so each time you have a group of these, then they'll be brought to this meeting and approved.
Anytime we make a change to the list other than striking them off as they get sold, we will bring it before the commission to be approved writ large.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, if there's no other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I would move approval of the surplus list of insignificant real property as presented by the clerk, John Whitaker.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the surplus list of insignificant real property and approve it to being posted on the Iron County website. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, personnel. Adrian, good morning.
Good morning. Just have one, excuse me, one new hire to present to you this morning. As you may remember, we had a resignation in the Building and Zoning Department, Jeff McKee, a number of weeks ago. And as part of that resignation, it created a position opening, obviously. Then we went through the approval process to change that position before the commission, to change that from, what was it called, like the building inspector, zoning officer, maintenance, like it kind of encompassed all of those duties. And but at the request of Chad Ney, the department head, we got approval to change and to recruit for specifically an experienced building inspector, zoning officer. So we've gone through that job posting, the recruiting process, the interviews, and at the conclusion of all of that, we had interest from a Mr. James Johnson, who applied. He's got a number of years of inspector experience. I think he'll be a good fit with the county and within Chad's department. So we're just looking for an approval to hire him as the new building inspector zoning officer with the effective date of April 8th. But with his incoming experience and per county policy, looking for the starting salary to be approved at $26.24 per hour. That is just short of the midpoint of the pay range, but it is again due to a lot of prior years of experience that he'll bring to the position and to the benefit of the county. So again, James R. Johnson is his name.
Okay, I would move approval of a new hire, James R. Johnson, as a building inspector zoning officer effective April 8, 2019. Note that it is a backfill position, and because of prior experience that he will be coming in at $26.24 an hour.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the hire of James R. Johnson as a building inspector zoning officer effective April 8, 2019. And with the other items as iterated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Any going to non-delegated, any prairie dog matters? See a few popping out these days. Any action on county boards? Okay. Any other items that aren't on the agenda that we can't legally bring forward?
Not an item.
Dan.
Action. I just wanted to invite everybody to walk down our halls upstairs and see our new artwork. Appreciative of that.
We continue to get compliments weekly.
The jury's still out as to placement vertically on the wall. So maybe we may move those. We may not. Maybe weigh in on that when you get a minute.
Yeah, it's been commented that maybe they were a little low, so if you'll weigh in on that, your feelings, we can move them. I don't know how easy that'll be, but we can move them.
Some of us that are vertically challenged like the alliance.
Well, hey.
What we need to do is take all the employees in the building, line them up, and take an average height.
We're going to do mean,
throw out
median,
the
and
hi-
mode.
We'll throw out the high and the low.
All right. Sorry, Dan.
I wasn't going to say it, but
All right. Chair declares adjournment. Thank you all for your input and for being here.
thank you.